Hello, my name is Connor Lee, and this is
Tony Swenson.
um, and we are going to be presenting on the National Archives database today. So I guess the first question here is what the National Archives is. Well, it's a governmental agency that's charged with the publication of various laws, governmental, historical, and cultural documents relevant to the United States, as well as overseeing the presidential libraries. Many of the records contained within the National Archives are available online for the public to use freely and peruse as they need. And that's what the main focus of this is going to be. Now, the database is divided into three primary parts. There's, of course, the central records research part, the veteran service records, and the educator resources. And we'll be going over all three of those a little bit here in a second. All right, so first off, the star of the show, the records database. Simply put, it provides links to various documents, images, recordings, website links, etc., relevant to that contain various, historical, cultural, governmental documents and items relevant to the United States. So it can be anything from pictures of a national park or, act that was signed into law, portraits of, I saw some portraits of presidents, maps, whatever. Searches can be narrowed down to various parameters. We'll get more into that in detail in Tony's part, but it can be things from file format to the media type to where it comes from. Now, selecting the link will provide you to entry in the catalog with various media type information that is relevant to it. A couple interesting points of note: accessibility on the records. It's okay. Some major documents like the Constitution of the United States, they have written down transcripts beneath them. But if you're looking up some random act passed into law in, say, 1865, you're probably not going to get a transcript for easy reading because it's just one document in thousands upon thousands. There are accessibility services available, though you do have to directly contact the archives in order to get that service. Help supplementing this, though, is the Citizen Archivist Project, which is where basically any citizen of the United States can get an online account on the National Archives database, and they can make their own entries. They can create folders to collect things relevant by subject or document if they're doing a project or whatever. They can also make contributions to entries, so they can add said transcripts of laws or of laws that are written in illegible handwriting or other kinds of documents like journals or what have you that are within the National Archives database. Now, other than that, there's the Veterans Resources, which are services provided to veterans. One of the things available is requests for military files, which you can give. They're, say, damaged in a natural disaster like the current ongoing hurricane. They have a specific little pop-up available for that, but it can also be house fires, floods, or if the airport loses the luggage with them and it ultimate nightmare there. And these can be service records, medical records, or other relevant documents. You can also order metal replacements, which is nice in case you accidentally, your metal accidentally got ruined when you dropped it in the washer or something, I don't know, or one of the aforementioned natural disasters. And they do allow for record tracking, so that way you can keep an eye on it. Military files are made available up to 62 years after 62 years after discharge. for the general public to use. Before that, you need to be either next of kin or the military service in question. You can also request for a veteran to be buried in a special National Veterans graveyard. So yeah, and again, you can keep track of all. They allow you to keep track of all of this. They also provide some World War II photos as part of this. Now, this is the big one: educator resources. So the Records Archives and Records Association provide various projects and stuff for educators to use. The two big ones are Civics for All of Us, which are a series of webinars and programs. Some can be scheduled, some are pre-scheduled. That can be done over Zoom or video call or whatnot, that are designed to help teach students to be civically aware about the Constitution, their voting rights, how to properly interact with these, etc. Docs Teach is a service where you can teach, educators can search for primary resources, design courses and activities around them, and share them with fellow educators as part of this. Now, but that's like just the tip of the iceberg. There's also just a general collection of important documents to the US, like Constitution, Declaration. There's special things for distance learning, for the Presidential Public Library lesson plans, National History Day, etc. It's a whole dearth of things. You can go through it for days and still find new stuff. All right.
Hi, as I mentioned earlier, my name is Tony, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to lead you through a sample search of the National Archives catalog, which serves as the access point for their database. There's a lot there. So to illustrate how this would be useful to a student, which is my, right now my primary focus on that, I chose to go ahead and do a search for a piece of legislation that could have helped me during a previous project when I was in an education class many years ago. So to access, so there's my sample search. The term we're going to use is elementary and secondary education. And like I said, who would use this? Now, definitely a college student, but also a legislative legal aid, anybody needing to look up legislation. You could do this kind of search for more than just that, but that's kind of what I'm highlighting at this moment. Okay. So to be able to access the catalog, you're going to go to our Research Our Records homepage. And if you look on the left-hand side and down a little bit, there's a box that says Research in the National Archives catalog. The first thing you see is the Search to the Catalog button. That's where you'll click to start your search. Now, I do want to point out, if you go a little farther down, you'll see where it says Using the National Archives catalog and Search Tips. And actually, if you scroll on down, you'll see even more help features. I use those two primarily to start my searching. I highly recommend going to those sites first because it does help. These are a little bit different kind of records. So those could be very useful when actually going to search for a topic. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and click on that Search the Catalog button. And this is what pops up. Now, it's kind of neat. As a little aside, I feel like they must be using things from their collection as background. So every time you get to this basic search bar, you're going to see a different background. It's pretty neat. Okay, so I'm going to type in elementary and secondary education. Now, you can just search that basic search bar with just clicking the magnifying glass. But you can also do the advanced search. But we're going to do the basic search first, because when you do that, you do have limiters you can use as well. So we'll go ahead and do that basic search first. And if you look, over 13,000 resources, clearly that's going to be too many to go over in a short amount of time. If you look on the left-hand side, you're going to see refiners. You're also going to hear me call them limiters. And there's several of them that you can use. There are data source, level of description, type of material, file format, location. The location's kind of neat to mention because let's just say, for example, you're going to travel to a city that has a repository or a presidential library. For example, though, I live in Kansas City, and I could go to the Truman Library, or there actually is a true National Archives repository in town. So if I wanted to actually go to the physical documents themselves, I could limit it to the location and then, see just what they've got right there to see if it's useful to me. You could also limit by record group or collection and the date. Also along the top, as you'll see, they have available online web pages, documents, images, and video. Okay, for this basic search and using just the limiters, I went ahead and used available online. I changed the type of material to textual, so I was just getting text, and then date, because I also know that that act took place in the 60s. So I went ahead and switched all those on. And now I only have, 2,855 is still a lot of results, but I can see right away that third one down, an act of April 10th, 1965, is exactly what I was looking for. If you go and do the advanced search instead, like you saw on that first page, you will go ahead and get a lot of these same limiters or refiners. But you will also have an added limiters of title, geographic reference, creator, description identifier, and Congress range. So if you actually, the more information you have, the better, the more detailed a results you're going to be able to get. And actually, when I did the basic search and this advanced search, I did end up both getting that same act of April 10th, 1965. When you click on your results, this one's pretty neat because the first thing you see is the actual document itself. So this one you can actually access online. And if you look on the left side under record hierarchy, you have the record group, the series, and the file unit. And if you notice, you can click on those. So if you actually get a good result record, then you can actually click on that and get even more information about your topic. So that part's really great. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of information in the results in the record. So in this case, you have the entire document online. You can make that bigger or smaller. I definitely recommend making it bigger for readability, and you can go all the way through it. If you look under the under the details, and I really wanted to point this one out, access restrictions and use restrictions. This one is unrestricted, so you do not have to worry about using this and having copyright infringement. That's a big one. I kind of like that. If you go down towards the archive copies and they have contacts, that's the other really cool thing. So let's say this was part of, this is a bigger archives, but let's just say you're going to be in the DC area and you wanted to look this up because it's important to you. You could contact these people and hopefully get an audience with that particular document face to face. So there's just a lot of good information on here. Okay, so just quickly, I wanted to go ahead and look through my other searches. I used a different set of search terms this time, and it's Library Services and Construction Act. And the reason I wanted to highlight this was to show you a different kind of record. All right, so as you see, I didn't do any limiters at all on this one. I've only got 60 results. And when you go ahead and go to the results page for this, right off, you're going to know something's a little different. There's no document. Yes, this one does not have the document available online. And so we'll look at how you can contact for that here in just a second. But same thing as the other record. Before, you've got the record hierarchy, which you can click on to get more information, or at least look at other documents that you could actually maybe access for your project. But if you go ahead and go down, this has all the same information as any other record. This one has the contact information for that document. So if you really need this one for your project, for your paper or whatever, you can go ahead and get a hold of them, and maybe they do have a transcript, or maybe you could get an audience with it. Okay, last sample search. Now, I used to be a social studies teacher, 8th grade social studies, and I really wanted to show that this catalog and the information in this database could be very much useful in a secondary or elementary education setting. In this case, what I'm looking for more is more high school and middle school, but teachers, high school, college students would actually use a search like this. So I put in the search terms Louisiana Purchase because I would definitely be talking about that. I limited it to online only because let's face it, especially with students, or actually if you're in the middle of planning something, you need it to be available right now. So that one was key. Also, I limited by maps and charts because I wanted to see a different kind of record than just like a legislative act. So when you click on that map of the Louisiana Purchase, same thing, record group series, all this stuff that you can click on to get more information. But if you look, and you can't see it here, but the record looks just the same. The nice part though is that in this record, there's also a link to those docs teach that Connor was talking about. And I did click on it and follow it. And it has a really good activity to go along with this map. So if a teacher was saying, oh, I want to use a map activity in my class, and they look up a map, and maybe they don't know about the activities already there, they can click on it from the record itself. So pretty easy access. And so that's some basic searching with the National Archives catalog. Now, I will say this, it was definitely an interesting experience. It was a little bit more involved than your normal searching activities. But once you got got the hang of it after a little help with the help features, I was able to find all kinds of information. But it's kind of a rabbit hole because it is all of the documents, all of the presidential memos, everything, all the legislative, everything from the beginning of the United States. So it's pretty much anything. I even on one of my little meanders somehow ended up on the JFK files. Don't think I will ever find that one again, but I mean, it is all in there. So it is kind of neat. You might want to be a little more specific and know exactly what you're looking for when you go to search, though. And that is the National Archives catalog.
Okay.